introduce our prime mover. Call her Professor Sandra, but I have another term for her, Professor Sandra Almeida. She is our ambassador. She's going to introduce our wonderful speaker. So Ambassador, Professor, Prime Mover, Sandra Almeida. Ma'am, take it away.
Thank you so much, Coach Andrea, ma'am. Now let me introduce the guest of honor, person with an enchanting smile, down to earth, very loving, caring, inspiring one. A person with lots of colors, with mindfulness, and she is none other than Coach Laura Mae Jones. Laura ma'am is a mindfulness master. She is a paralegal notary public, motivational speaker, an artist, an empowerment model. She is a Toastmaster and a very passionate person to affect mental health, reform, teaching of mindfulness. Additionally, she is a powerful wife of John W. Jones, a retired master surgeon, United States. Also, a joyful mother, grandmother, and great grandmother. Really happy to invite such a versatile personality. It's her hope to be the ripple of love as well as hope and light to the world. And she is a true living testimony that we all are created by God. And she is here to give you the message of love, life, and kindness. She is such an beautiful personality who is always ready to help others and lifting others and lifting herself. So I'm very happy to introduce such a versatile personality. Please help me to bring our hands together to invite such a beautiful person from inside and outside. Coach Lara Mae Jones, this is a beautiful garden of share every. Please spread your seeds of knowledge in our platform. Over to you, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends, I am so humbled and honored to be here today at Share Every. And I am so proud to be a Share Everyan. Coach Rambabu, I thank God for you every day for creating a platform where I have been able to learn the skills to make me confident enough to give my speech today about my near-death experience in 2015, mindfulness, and the healing power. Furthermore, to all of my fellow Share Everyans, I want to thank you for the honor of all of the work that you do to make it possible for people like me to tell their story. It's an honor to stand before you to share my story of resilience, transformation, and the power of the human spirit. In the intricate tapestry of our lives, we all encounter turbulence, trials, and tribulations. I was born in Pennsylvania, the youngest of 6 children. My father served in World War II, and my mother was a nurse. I loved my father. My father would take me to pick up my mother on Sundays, where she worked as a registered nurse at a mental health asylum called Pennhurst. Pennhurst was overcrowded. There was a lot of abuse. I witnessed people chained to their beds, shackled, because they would hurt themselves or others. There were children with helmets on. There were people that were placed there for just having epilepsy or even being deaf or Down syndrome, very mild things, but they were put there and abandoned. They were eventually forced to close down Pennhurst because of all the abuse. My mother even said lobotomies were conducted there on the worst of the patients because they would harm other people. To me, that's what mental illness was. I was a lonely child because my parents split up when I was 7 years old, and my siblings all had to quit school because my mother worked 2 full-time jobs to support us. My father didn't contribute any support or visit, and I thought he couldn't love me. I thought I was unlovable. I did not think that sadness and depression was a mental illness. I thought I was defective. I thought I was weak. Divorce was frowned upon a great deal in the 60s. So even my aunts, uncles, cousins were gone. There was hardly anyone in my life. My mother worked from 12:30. She was only home from 12:30 at night until 6:30 in the morning. She did not have time to nurture, encourage, teach me things that I needed to know. And my needs were not met, but not due to her fault. I suffered a lot of abusive behaviors by people that she was not able to be there to intervene. And she too, when she worked at Pennhurst, came home on 2 separate occasions, having been severely attacked. She didn't speak much about it, but the claw marks on her neck, shredded pantyhose, and things like that, it didn't take much to figure out what had happened. She was a very strong woman, and we used to play a game with the Reader's Digest. Who remembers the Reader's Digest magazine? There was a word power section that had 10 vocabulary words in it, and she would have me write those words, leave that for her with a sentence written from each word. I fell in love with words, and to this day, I love words. Words are power. They are weapons, or they are healing. At age 10, the school sent home a note to my mother saying that I was morbidly obese. I did not know what that meant. I thought I was in trouble. She explained to me that I was very overweight, and she tried to guide me to use moderation and eat better, make better choices. But like I said, she wasn't there, and she even prepared my meals. But there were 3 things that I had. I had some books, and I loved the words. TV, we had 3 channels is all, and food. I was a foodie because it comforted me. It kept me company. If I was sad, I would celebrate with food. I would comfort with food and things like that. By the time I was 15 years old, I was having heart palpitations from hiding my acute anxiety and depression from my mother because she had enough on her plate with 6 of us. And I was, like I said, I was the youngest, and I didn't want to bother her. But she saw it, and she took me to the doctor, and they put me on a medication called Valium at 15 years old, which is a tranquilizer. And so I took that. By 2010, I was so depressed, and they put me on 13 different medications that I took every day. 13. In fact, my son, for my 50th birthday, I think, gave me a fishing tackle box to separate all my medications in. And the side effects of those medications caused me to gain 170 pounds. And I wanted to just show you a quick picture of that, if you can see it. I weighed 315 pounds. My thyroid was trashed from the medications, and I was addicted to a medication called Xanax, another stronger tranquilizer. Things tended to, continue to occur in my life, and things from my childhood and my early adulthood, I never was able to speak to anyone about. But I have had so many lived experiences, and I was giving up hope because I was just, I was so big. I was 57% body fat, but I lost 600 sticks of butter, the equivalence of that. And that was, a decade ago. And I'm proud to say that I'm still maintaining a good, healthy weight, which is still more than my husband weighs. He had to put my shoes and socks on. I was disabled. I was not able to play with my grandchildren. And so at the urgent request of my doctor, I had gastric bypass surgery to enable me to lose that weight for the second time. I had lost it originally when I was 28 years old. I lost 150 pounds on Weight Watchers, and I worked very hard to keep that off. But like I said, the medications came back, and that's pretty much all they did with us back then was medication. There really was no therapy for me. But it was in 2012 that I started my 30-year journey with medication and therapy, only to find myself on life support in 2015. I had no memory for a month after that I had ingested my husband's heart medication. I thought I was unresponsive because of low potassium, which can cause serious health problems. So it was a month later, and I had a flashback of a bottle of pills in my hand with only a few in it, and John asking me, "Honey, did you take these pills?" And I said, "Not today." And then I started to remember I was in brain fog for a few months. What happened when I had my near-death experience after John found me unresponsive and called the ambulance, I can tell you I felt very tired before I passed out or whatever. So I laid on the floor in my living room, and as quick as I laid on that floor, I was in another realm. I knew I was in another realm because it was so quick, and I never lost consciousness. I was more conscious and more alert. And having taken dialectical behavior therapy, and mindfulness is built into dialectical behavior therapy, and I was so aware of everything. And there are no words to describe my environment there, but I compare it to being in heaven's womb. I was enveloped like a fetus in a mother's warm, loving, unconditional love in abundance like you've never felt before. I was aware of it was silent and it was black. There was no light for me. At first, I thought, as a Christian and trying to end my life, I thought, am I in purgatory? Is this a holding place for me? Is this where I'm going to spend eternity? And I was thankful that I didn't hear screaming voices like I heard at Pennhurst. I was thankful that there was nothing harmful. I felt loved for the first time, really loved, like I'd never known before. And I felt a higher power in my presence. I felt like I was being infused with a knowing that we are a learning school, that we are all connected, that we all have the same God. We are one. We do not need to have boundaries. Boundaries is something that humans set up. But at the end of the day, what it was about is love. We don't lose our memory or our consciousness ever. We just, as quick as I could stand up and walk to another chair and sit down, is how quickly I was in that realm, my heavenly realm. I was in a coma for 3 days. When I woke up, I was so angry that I let the people I loved define me as not being worthy of the air that I breathe. Okay. But I had a mission. I thought, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? My family was gone. I'm sorry for being upset. I'm not upset. I'm very thrilled. But anyway, so I thought, what am I going to do? So I took the bull by the horns. I enrolled in a mindfulness course with my mentor, John Shear, who also had a near-death experience. And he's a spiritual healer. And because of the mindfulness, 2 years after I started studying with John Shear, I was certified as a mindfulness mentor. And my passion was to have an impact on mental health reform. So my grandchildren, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will never have to experience the things that I did in the older version of our mental health system. I went to an emergency room prior to my suicide attempt, and they stripped me bare. They took my wedding ring. They took all my clothing. They gave me a gown, no sheet, no pillow, nothing on the walls, no clergyman, no pastor. The nurses didn't even come in. I laid there and cried for like 6 hours, hysterically, really. And they let me go. I've never been an inpatient, and I should have been at that time, but they sent me home. And from December 2014 to the time I did overdose, I lived 4 hours at a time journaling to God. God got me through. And let me tell you, one of the hardest things as a mother was watching my son carry his son's little casket from the limousine and place it in the ground. Now, that day he came home with a bottle of alcohol and a tattoo of a broken heart on his chest. He drank for 20 years. In 2018, he was battling to quit. He wanted to quit, but he was self-loathing, which he learned from me because I was so negative before. And your children hear you. They see you. And if you put yourself down, they're going to put themselves down. But I found him unresponsive, and I was able to keep my calmness about me and do the next right thing. And it took 8 minutes of CPR before I even got him to breathe. He was already cold and stiff when we got home. I did not know if they'd be able to save him. They actually airlifted him in a helicopter 50 miles away, telling me that he was brain dead, that he would not probably wake up, and if he did, he had lost oxygen so long, he would be a vegetable. Well, I walk by faith and not by sight. And until they would tell me to unplug his life support, I was not going to listen to what the doctor said. I walked in, I put my hand on his leg. His brain wave was it was flat. His blood pressure was extraordinary high. And I put my hand on him and I prayed over him. And his brain waves started to move. And the nurses said how unusual that was for someone brain dead. They said, I think he's trying to bite on his tube. Well, 3 days later, my son woke up and he had no damage. He is also now, he has been sober for over 4 years, and he is a motivational speaker, currently at the House of Prayer, mentoring 25 young men who are also at the bottom of their lives, fighting for their lives. So together, it's just a miracle to me that a mother and son can both be on life support and still survive and find our passion and our mission to heal one person, just one. If I resonate with any one person and I save one life, it's worth it to me because there is hope. You never have to give up hope. Let me tell you, I recovered. I rewired my own brain by a book. Let me show you the book. This is a book I used for dialectical behavior therapy. Dialectical behavior therapy was done by Dr. Marsha Linehan from Oklahoma. She was a psychiatrist and she suffered from schizophrenia and borderline personality disorder, which is eventually what my diagnosis was, borderline personality disorder. Never heard of it. When I looked it up, I could not believe even the doctors didn't want to treat anyone with borderline personality disorder. It doesn't mean multiple personalities. That's what I thought at first, like Sybil, if you've ever heard of Sybil. But when I researched it, like I said, it had a very poor prognosis, and they said I was disabled. He said, file this with the Department of Social Services. You are permanently disabled. I said, I didn't file that paper ever because I thought I am able. I'm able to be kind. I'm able to think. I'm able to do things. I'm not impossible. I'm possible. So like I said, I took the bull by the horns and I learned these skills. So for a book from Amazon for about $12 then, and a deck of cards, this is how my book, Be, Me, and DBT. That is what I had. And if you see, I wore it out. I really wore it out. I reframed all of my thinking. I had a complete paradigm shift. And by the grace of God and mercy, I was able to recover. I have been recovered for probably 8 years. I never get like I was. And I really want everyone to have hope because being prepared for our job in heaven, we are all going to be there, different levels in heaven. And everything we go through in our life, no matter how tragic, no matter how painful, it's to prepare us for our next journey eternally. And so I don't question things anymore. When I had my near-death experience, I had this complete understanding. It was almost like a review of my life, but there was no pain in it. There was just understanding and compassion. There's no pain in that realm. There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's no pain, there's no judges. It just doesn't exist there. The only thing that exists there is abundant love and acceptance. I believe I was on the potter's wheel being molded by Jesus Christ and God. But like I said, I did not see anything. So I'm not sure, but I'm sure that I was in heaven's realm. We have 5- and 6-year-olds in the United States now getting suicidal. And we have to do something. We have to break the stigma, because the stigma that goes along with mental illness is preventing people from talking about it, even to their friends or family, because of shame, because of judgment. And mindfulness teaches us we don't judge others. And once people learn not to judge others, then people are more comfortable to open up about their dis-ease. Mental illness is a dis-ease. It is something that can be minor, but in my case, it wasn't getting handled properly. I wasn't being taught the skills. Until you learn the skills, you probably won't feel better. That's the thing. It was hard work, but it was so worth it. These are my skills. This is interpersonal relationships, emotion regulation, distress tolerance, and what's the other one? Mindfulness. Yeah, mindfulness. I guess to summarize, I would like to say, never let anyone define who you are. Just let God define who you are. Be still and open your heart and your mind to the presence of God. He will tell you your next step. And when things go wrong, they can go wrong for a minute, a season, a decade. I call John's we call it the decade of darkness. So much happened that we actually wondered if it was some kind of spiritual warfare. It got that bad. And I've had lived experiences with abandonment, neglect, sexual assault, domestic violence, many, many things. But despite all of that, I was able, even while abandoned by my family, to rebuild myself. And I know now that God took the people out of my life that were holding me back from becoming my best self, my higher self. I was so worried about pleasing them and never being able to, that I just had a hole in my soul. And now, because I came global, I met someone who introduced me to Share Every. And Coach Rambabu made me feel comfortable to join. We need to break stigmas. We need to be united, because we are one. We are all one. We are all the body of Christ, or the body of God. The body of God collectively is who we are. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. It's hard to see people going through hard things, but I have been abundantly blessed. I have received double blessings for my troubles in all areas of my life. It took a long time. I was 58 years old before I felt inner peace and joy in my life for the first time. And I can't tell you what it's like to be rid of that baggage, the chains that held me down. I can't tell you what it's like to be free of that. I love it. I'm just a lay person. I'm not a real doctor or therapist. I'm a lay person. I was able to change my life, and you can change yours too by coming here, by learning the skills you need to tell your story, because we all have a story. And if we share our story, we can reach the corners of darkness with our light, because the darkness cannot withstand the light. And that's what we are. And that's why I come here, is so that I can be around positive people that just feed my soul. Don't ever give up. You can do this. You don't need to spend a lot of money. You just have to do the arduous journey of transforming your mind. It doesn't have to cost a lot. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. Okay, back to you.
Thank you so much, Coach Laura May. Wow, wow. I love this. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. That was worth right there, the price of admission. Let's turn it over, thank you, to our reviewer, our CEO, our friend, our fearless leader, Coach Ram Babu. Sir, take it over, please.
Thank you. I don't know what to say or how to start after listening to your story, but I love the closing line very much from your message, from your life story. That is, you got double blessings from troubles. This is the message for every one of us. Usually, whenever we go through or come across the troubles or tribulations, we blame God, we blame people, we blame society, we blame who live around us. But you didn't do that. That is the great message. So there is a statement in English for explaining life. Life is a journey. You proved it. Life is a journey. Your name is a successful story, as we experienced just before. Whatever title you have shared with us, grave to brave, that is very suitable title after listening your experience, what you have faced. I would like to take your name as the message. In your name, Laura, 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 I saw you, the best quality within you. The L stands for you are so loyal. You are so faithful. So you were continuously facing many troubles, many hurdles, going through n number of tribulations. You never lose your faith. You were searching. You stood on faith, on belief, what you would believe. That we should learn from your life story. And the second thing, you are so audacious. You are really daring, bold, brave. I'm sure by reaching this moment, you might face many failures than success. A statement in English that is really perfect to your life story. That statement is, failure is detour to success. Failure is a broad way to reach the end target. We can make our road very widen with the failures. The failure only is a tool to strengthen ourselves. In your message, you pointed out whatever power you have, that power is really unique power, what you received by God. So many people I know, once we faced any hurdle which is unbearable, most of the people, they show their back. They give up. But you didn't do that. With that unique power, with that unique strength, you are keep on showing you're faithful, and you are keep on trying to hit whatever walking against you. And the next one is, you really are resilient. By using the unique power, you showed, or you became very resilient, and you bounced back. The last letter is A. If we really think failures or ups and downs are very common, the meager section of people, they know this truth. Whenever they succeed, they enjoy. Whenever they failure, they blame. But you didn't do that. You never lose your faith, never hide your bravery. All the time you tried your best to use your power and strength, and you were like your life is really accessible to take into our lives. At the end, you mention be still. Your life is really a lesson and your life is really a message. Thank you. And you showed really, you crossed the grave and you became very brave. Oh, to the host, Doc Andrea.
Okay, thank you, CEO, Coach Rambabu.